Good evening and welcome to the June 14th meeting of the Board of School Trustees for Fort Wayne Community Schools. This meeting will be open to the public during Indiana's ongoing public health emergency as declared by Governor Holcomb. Masks must be worn at all times on Fort Wayne Community Schools grounds. Social distancing will be practiced at the meeting, therefore some members of the public who wish to attend may be excluded. If you plan to attend, please email our Public Information Officer, Krista Stockman. All others will need to email the Clerk of the Board, Angela Filler. The public is encouraged to view the meeting at Cable Comcast 54 and Frontier 24, the live stream on our Facebook page, or the LTV 2454 Fort Wayne Community Schools YouTube channel. Priority for attendance in person will be given to the members of the medium. We'll begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Steve, roll call.
Good evening, Steve Corona from the 5th District.
Raleigh Booker, 4th District.
Jennifer Matthias, 2nd District. Maria Norman, Member at Large.
Julie Hollingsworth from the 1st District.
Noah Smith, 3rd District.
And to my left is Angela Filler, Clerk of the Board, and Dr. Daniel, our Superintendent.
Good evening.
And we will begin with our consent agenda, since we have no awards and recognition. This includes the approval of minutes from our last meeting, May 24th, vouchers and payroll, and our personnel report. Is there a motion on the floor to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the items in the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Dr. Daniels, was there anything you wanted to mention in the personnel report?
Yes. So, you know, we've added 40 teachers because of what we're doing in the midst of the ESSER dollars and funds that we have to support catching our students up. So with that, we're about 71% filled. Talking with Charles, he says that's about normal. I was very pleased that as we've looked at, for instance, interventionists, how we're handling that, being extremely flexible, but more importantly, adding some additional training time in the summertime and moving that forward, I will say a rapid training piece so we can fill those positions. So for instance, we have 24 of those positions that are new to us and we're adding those. So overall, I can just tell you, very impressed with what's happening. The working hard, incentive dollars are being used as well. And it seems as if we're very much on target to meet the beginning of the year needs. So, good news on that front.
Noah, did you have a question?
What do you see as the pain points as far as teaching roles right now?
So, broken down here, speech language pathologists always seem to be a little tough to find. We hired 6 additional. We still have 2 additional candidates in the queue. That's always seems to be an interesting phenomenon. Again, 46 total early offers that were provided. 30 folks accepted those. So again, trying to move that needle earlier and earlier, especially those individuals that are student teaching with us. So we know what they've learned the system. Let me see here. So again, math, positions open in math as well as Spanish, so foreign language. So overall though, I think our marketing program is as they say here, we have some early indicators of success, but more time we needed before the final results will show. If nothing else, we are now much more competitive to the private market with regard to professionals. Bus drivers, huge need, continues to be that need. There are some administrative assistants as well in elementary that we historically have not filled that we need to fill. Again, if there are people who are listening that are interested in positions, go to our website, and we're looking forward to that response being, hopefully you're going to hear a response in a very short amount of time, because we know that that's a very tight market as well. But they're needed, and they're needed because our teachers need the assistance to help the students that we know that have gaps, and we need bodies. We need caring adults in these classrooms to help our kids. So those are the primary areas. Again, bus drivers, absolutely. Foreign language, math seems to be, and then again, administrative assistants.
So approximately how many physical people is that?
Well, let's see. So total, right now, we still have 85 positions open. So teaching vacancies, we had 289 to begin with. 204 of those are filled. So you can see that's a sizable number in our district. So we're looking at a total employment of about 1,900. So that's a little over 10% that we're filling.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Administrative assistant is, what position is that?
So those would be teacher aides, if you will.
So classroom assistant.
Classroom assistants, primarily in the elementary years. So again, positions are open, they're available, they're on our website. We'd love to fill those positions. And I'll mention the last thing too, substitute teachers. So we're looking at how are we creating a greater bank. And some positions, Charles, we've talked about hiring full-time subs, i.e. a building has a permanent sub in their building. And these are hard to fill positions. When they aren't filled, we have to go, principals have to be creative. How do we cover those classes? How do we combine classes? How do we move classes to the library, those sorts of things, or into the auditoriums, what have you. We'd like to do less of that this year. Again, a critical year to catch for our students to rebound and to have that full time with their teacher. So as a community service, if you have, again, any interest, you have a background in education, or if not, if you want to, maybe you're retired, very flexible schedule, and we'll work with you.
Great, great job for a parent.
Yes.
Same vacations and
That's right.
hours as your kids, so.
That's right. Flexible schedule.
Exactly.
Yep.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, all in favor of the consent agenda, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, we have no old business, so we'll begin.
Is there anyone Dr. Daniel wanted to introduce from the personnel report?
Was there anyone?
Well, let's see. I think we're good today.
Okay.
I think we're good today. Some are not here, which I said, that's fine. But, yes, do we have?
Nutrition Services Director.
Oh, okay. So actually, I'm going to turn that one over to Kathy then.
I wasn't sure if you could believe
Yeah, I was thinking too. I was going, okay, I see these people here.
Is our new Nutrition Services Director taking over for Candace
Yay.
when she retires. So Rebecca formerly worked at Nutrition Services as a coordinator and then left us for a while and worked in higher ed and has returned to us. So
Great, well, thank you.
Congratulations.
Welcome. We haven't met yet either, so.
And we voted? Right? Did we vote? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
All right. Okay, so under new business, it is recommended that the board approve the purchase of a 2-year subscription to RAS Plus digital software from Learning A to Z of Tucson, Arizona for $189,368.75. Whereas Plus is a digital platform that provides students in K through 5 with the opportunity to read books at their Lexile level and answer questions about the text. Learning A through Z is the sole source provider for RAS Plus software. Indiana law does not require bidding for purchases made from sole source providers. Funding will come from ESSER 2, and questions will be answered by Jamie Shank, Elementary Math and English Language Arts Coordinator. Is there a motion on the floor for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. And do we have any questions?
So we've been using this past year?
Yes, our K through 2 students have been using it, and we're actually wanting to expand it K through 5 because we felt that it was a valuable resource for us. The teachers can also print the books off that they can get digitally and assign to them. There's also lesson plans that they can print off for small groups. There's letter cards and all different types of activities. They just recently came out with something as I was reviewing the website today around project-based learning as well.
Teachers like it, kids are learning?
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and our next item is Titan Software, and Steve, would you read that recommendation?
Yes, ma'am. It is recommended the board approve the purchase of a 3-year contract for software to be used by Nutrition Services. The company is Titan School Services, and the amount of the contract is $152,375. The software package includes point of sales, inventory management, and menu planning, and is needed to facilitate the nutrition services program since the current software package is no longer being supported. The software will be used in all of our district kitchens, the central kitchen, nutrition services warehouse, and their central offices, and funding is going to come from the Nutrition Services Fund. And Candy Hager, I guess we're going to squeeze the last nickel out of you. She's available if we have questions.
Thank you. Is there a motion on the floor for approval?
Move we approve.
Second.
Thank you. And do we have any questions?
Oh, we got to ask her something.
So the past software package that you had just is no longer support, I mean, it just went away?
Currently, we use NutriKids, and the package that we have from NutriKids is about 25, 30 years old, and so it's no longer being supported. So what NutriKids wanted us to do will not meet our needs. So we started about 3 years ago searching for new software.
Right. And so have you been able to use any part of this to see that, obviously, 3 years is a long time, so apparently you've done your research.
We have done extensive research. We've researched 4 or 5 different companies to pick the one that meets our needs the best. There is no perfect software out. As Jack says, Fort Wayne Community Schools breaks every software package there is, and we have some issues with this one already. But it is one that has met the most of our needs, and we feel pretty comfortable with it.
Great. Thank you.
Anything else? Oh, go ahead.
Does that 152,000 plus, does that cover the 3 years, or is that an annual cost?
It does cover the 3 years. It's about $58,000 each year.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, thank you, Candace. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next we have milk. Jennifer.
It is recommended that an award be made to the most responsible and responsive bidder meeting specifications, quality standards, and complete dairy service. The bid is awarded based on the 3 categories of half-pint containers, which include 1% white, fat-free chocolate, and skim milk. The company is Prairie Farms Dairy, Fort Wayne, for $1,013,014. Half pints of milk, estimated at 5.7 million annually, represent about 90% of total dairy purchases for 58 locations, including our schools and 6 private schools. Other dairy items such as yogurt, cottage cheese, and larger units of milk will also be provided and are in addition to the cost above. The bid is for a 1-year contract with the option to renew. Invitations to bid were mailed to 2 prospective bidders, with both responding. Prairie Farms and Dairy Farms of America. The total for this bid is approximately a 11.64% decrease when compared to the current contract pricing. Questions will be addressed by the Director of Nutrition Services, Candy Hager.
Thank you. Is there a motion on the floor for approval?
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions?
Candace, looking at the pricing here, the chocolate cows making chocolate milk cost that much more, or just the demand for chocolate milk is much greater than the demand for white milk?
It's hard to come by a chocolate cow, you know. Our students do like chocolate milk, and if we can get them to drink milk by adding a little chocolate, it's well worth the nutrition that they receive from it.
All right, anything else? All right, yep, looks like they drink what, 3 times as much chocolate? As long as they're drinking milk, like she said. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and food and beverages, Julie.
It's recommended that an award be made to the lowest responsible and responsive bidders, meeting specifications and quality standards. So the food bid, there's 5 different companies there for a total of $4,493,256.34. And beverages, there are 4 different companies for a total bid of $533,077.22. The food portion of the bid is for items to be used in the school lunch program at the Nutrition Process Center and the 17 cooking kitchens from August 1st, 2021 through July 31st, 2022. The bid includes items such as fruits, vegetables, meat, and staples such as flour, sugar, and salt. The beverage portion of the bid is for bottled water and juice. Some items were withdrawn from the bid because of menu changes, the receipt of government commodities, or the absence of an acceptable bid. Invitations to bid were mailed to 24 prospective bidders. 5 responded to the food portion and 5 are recommended for some portion of the bid. 6 responded to the beverage portion and 4 are recommended for some portion of the bid. And questions, again, will be addressed by Director of Nutrition Services, Candace Hager.
Thank you, Julie. Is there a motion on the floor for approval?
So
Nope.
moved.
Second.
Okay, any questions?
I do have a question. Candy, is all of our food cooked in one of our kitchens? Do we purchase any pre-cooked items?
All of our meats are pre-cooked. Our kitchens are not equipped to cook from raw, nor do we want to cook from raw. It's much safer to have that done in a manufacturer place that does it well. And then we do have some pre-cooked items that are given to us as commodities. The raw product is given to us. We send it to a manufacturer to be made into our chicken strips, our chicken nuggets, our beef patties, and that kind of thing.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything?
I'm curious if you've done any research into, the new plant-based meats. I'm sure it's pricier.
It is a bit pricier.
For now.
That is not an issue. We do serve some vegetarian. We have not brought plant-based meat products on yet. We really need to work with the student body for acceptability before we just go headlong into that.
Right.
The biggest mistake we can make is bring it in and nobody will eat it. So that's probably a charge of the new director.
There you go.
About 2 years ago, we did start doing whole muscle meats rather than pieces, parts formed
I
together.
remember that discussion.
And that has been received very well by the kids. Students,
Thank you.
excuse me.
You mentioned some products and staples are harder to get these days than before. What are you seeing? What types of challenges are you seeing in that vein?
Some of our pizzas that we have purchased, they've stopped making them. We do a lot of Schwann's pizzas. There's a myriad of different items that when pandemic hit, all of a sudden, everybody was hoarding stuff out of the grocery store, so they couldn't keep up with the retail line. So they reformed all of their manufacturer lines to supply retail. And now school food service has not been manufactured for about 5 or 6 months. And so it's going to take them a little time to get back into the school food service portion. Believe it or not, the product that's sold by Tyson as chicken nuggets in the retail has different ingredients than the chicken nugget sold by Tyson in school food service. And it's done because we have certain guidelines of fat and salt and all of that other stuff that we have to adhere to, that our retail operations don't have to.
When those products are available again, will you incorporate those back into the menu options this year, or will you wait until next school year to do that?
We will probably, that is a question for the new director. I am really trying hard not to speak right now and let Becky start taking over. But I would assume that as they become available and the kids really like them, the students really like them, they will be incorporated back into the menu.
What would you say the most popular lunch dish is that the district serves for the kids?
Nacho Wednesday?
Nacho Wednesday. What's your favorite?
Nacho Wednesday? Kids like to snack, and nachos are a snacky type of item, and they do provide a well-rounded nutritional profile.
I say pizza was my child. And so when the pizza becomes available again, I hope that we
Yeah.
reincorporate that back in.
Well, obviously, I think we would be foolish not to incorporate the pizza back in as soon as it comes available, because it is a well-liked by the kids. The students, excuse me. They'll probably always be kiddos to me.
Well, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, Maria Cafeteria Disposables.
It is recommended that an award be made to the lowest responsible and responsive bidders meeting specifications and quality standards. There were 2 companies that are meeting the criteria for a total amount of $241,536.30. The bid is for cafeteria disposable products such as plastic, aluminum, and pressed paperboard containers to be used at the Nutrition Process Center. Invitations to bid were mailed to 10 prospective bidders with 2 responding. Questions will be addressed by the Director of Nutrition Services, Candy Hager.
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval?
Motion.
Second.
And any questions?
Is this for the upcoming year, school year?
I do have a question. I'm just curious. I know the information here says that you sent it out to 10 prospective bidders. And was Sabert Food Packaging one of them? They're right here in our hometown.
I don't believe so.
I mean, I'm not, I've been in their factory and I've seen their product, but I don't know. I'm just going to ask them.
When we entertain the types of products that we use for our packaging, there's more criteria than just price. We have to make sure that it flows down our line.
Yeah.
And it gets wrapped properly or gets oversealed properly. So we have to be pretty particular about what kinds of dishes,
Yeah.
disposable dishes that we use for our food.
And this product is used at the kitchen, the main kitchen?
Yes, the central
Okay.
kitchen.
Thank you.
And I just want to say, if you don't have a question for the last one, I'm going to take this opportunity to tell you that I have so enjoyed serving you for the last 12 years. And I'll miss you all.
I'm going to miss you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Nu- Nutrition services, papers, and supplies.
It is recommended the award be made to the lowest responsible and responsive bidders meeting specifications and quality standards. The bid for cafeteria papers and supplies such as bags, gloves, aprons, trays, and paper products to be used by nutrition services. Invitations to bid were mailed to 9 prospective bidders and 6 responded, with the total bid being $321,390.22 from 4 various groups. Any questions to be answered by Candace?
Okay, and is there a motion on the floor for approval?
I'll move we approve.
Second.
Thank you. And any questions?
We might as well ask you one more question. Well, since I'm fairly new to the process of bidding and such, can you explain to me, when you mailed, like the last one, there was 10 mailed and only 2 responded. Can you tell me why someone may not respond?
Maybe they feel like they can't supply the quantity that we need. Possibly they are overextended in their other entities that they're taking care of. I never know exactly why a person doesn't bid. They just don't sometimes.
Okay. Oh, I figured since you're so well versed in the research doing the asking the bidders that you know that they can supply the product, I just kind of wondered why they, in return, don't bid.
They may not have been awarded the bid in years past because their costs are higher and they already know that they can't meet the price that we need to have. That could be one of the reasons.
That makes sense.
And this year, staffing issues could be a real reason why people are not bidding, because they can't make the production.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you.
If I could go back to that bid, with food packaging, it was requested that we were seeking plastic, aluminum, and pressed paperboard containers. So I'll just pick on, or I'll just ask about Gordon Food Service. I would assume that they then procure that from a provider. Gordon isn't making those, they've got suppliers.
Gordon is a trucking company that delivers product.
Okay,
All of their product comes from another manufacturer. It's a
Okay.
distribution house, and they send it out.
got it, thanks.
Anything else? This is your last chance to ask her a question. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving on to a new topic. Temporary interfund loan, Raleigh.
It is recommended that the board approve all interfund loans necessary to eliminate deficits in certain funds of the corporation as of June 30th, 2021. Cash deficits in funds of the corporation are not allowed at the end of a fiscal year. Deficits in property tax supported funds could occur if the distribution of property taxes from Allen County is short of expectations. Normal timing differences between revenue and expenditures could cause temporary deficits. State statute allows temporary transfers between funds if certain requirements are met. The treasurer will make all necessary transfers and report the loans to the board.
Thank you.
And I'm going to assume that Kathy would answer questions on that one.
I would assume so. It doesn't say, does it? We'll have Kathy answer questions. Is there a motion on the floor for approval?
I move for approval.
Second.
Okay, are there any questions? Okay, seeing there are none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and transfer from the Education Fund to the Operations Fund. It is recommended that the board approve a transfer of up to $15 million from the Education Fund to the Operations Fund. This represents 7.1% of budgeted Education Fund revenue. Beginning in 2019, Indiana school districts deposit state tuition support to the Education Fund and property taxes to the Operations Fund. Transfers from the Education Fund to the Operations Fund are necessary to properly fund expenditures necessary to the operations of the school district. Half will be transferred by June 30th and the balance needed by December 31st. Questions will be addressed by Chief Financial Officer Kathy Friend. Is there a motion on the floor for approval?
So moved. Second.
And do we have any questions for Kathy?
I've got a couple. So Kathy, did we transfer the full 15 million last year?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Yes.
So since we've been doing this with the two funds now, and I know we had quite a few discussions before it happened about sort of operating really the way kind of we used to, but going okay so far? Anything surprised you or any glitches?
No, I think the main thing is you have to look at both funds combined really to get a true impression of our situation versus looking at either fund. So and this transfer, is part of the reason for that. I think this year's transfer might end up being a little smaller than the 15 million, but I wanted to put that in there as the maximum just in case that's where we would have to be. But otherwise, no big surprises.
So have we found a benefit to the flexibility, in the education fund being able to be used 4 or 5 different ways? And
I think the operations fund is where the flexibility benefit comes from, because now we don't have to be pigeonholed into the transportation fund and the bus replacement fund and the capital projects fund, and that gives us more flexibility in that way. In the beginning, I wasn't a big supporter of that. I sort of liked those, those buckets that we had. But I do see that there's good flexibility there, because maybe in some year you have to buy a larger number of buses, let's say, because you've just hit your 12-year replacement on the buses. Maybe you don't do as many capital projects in that year or something like that. So, you have annuals in the operations fund. It's kind of weird the way the funds get set up. So, but that's all driven by the state chart of accounts and not driven by us. So there should be consistency around the state for how that works.
Would you be considered part of the operations fund then too?
Me? Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, really everybody that works for me is in the operations fund. Yep.
Anything else? Okay, thank you, Kathy. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and that ends the business portion of our meeting. Now we will have a report. Everyday Deep Learning. Tonight's presentation by Ramona Coleman, Lindsay Amstutz, and professional learning coordinators will provide an overview of the intricate components of everyday deep learning. They will demonstrate how Fort Wayne Community Schools is transitioning as a district from clarity to sustainability, ensuring all students are impacted by the 6 C's, which are character, creativity, communication, collaboration, citizenship, and critical thinking. Thank you, Ramona.
Thank you. All right. Good evening, Board, Dr. Daniel, Cabinet. First of all, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity this afternoon to share with you everyday deep learning. I want to start with first introducing you to the PL department, my team that helps to get this work done every single day. So we have Ben McIntosh, coordinator for secondary professional learning, Kendra Bowser, coordinator for secondary professional learning, Allison Sleesman, elementary coordinator, Ramona Coleman, Director of Professional Learning, Kami Lakes, Coordinator for Elementary Professional Learning, Amanda Laddick, Talent Management Coordinator. I want to introduce our department first. However, the work that we're going to share with you tonight could not be done without the support of curriculum and the curriculum department, along with our technology department. So again, I want to thank the curriculum department that's here tonight, along with Jack Bird for technology, and then principals and a teacher that you're going to get a chance to hear from tonight also. So again, our principals, Matt Herron is not here with us tonight. Lindsay Amstubbs Martin, North Crest Elementary School, and Scott McMullen from Northside High School. You will hear from all three of them via video, and then again, the opportunity for board to ask any questions that they might have. So this is a phrase that I love that was shared with us from our superintendent, Dr. Daniel. Deep learning brings the curriculum to life. And so this afternoon, really take an opportunity to share where we're moving and shifting the learning for curriculum 2.0 and using teachers' voice and students' voice and having that emphasis around deep learning. So I really want to focus on the right side, looking at the screen, from traditional learning to everyday deep learning. So I love this slide because to me it clearly states why. Why do we want to invest in everyday deep learning as a district? So we really want to make sure that we're looking at students' ability, students-led, teacher-framed, really looking at activating the student's voice, connecting the students to real-world and authentic problem solving. When I think about the work that Dr. Daniel is doing with pipelines and working with those pipelines with community voices throughout our community, all of those community voices have spoken to us and said the 6 C's are very relevant to the work that they want our students to successfully have in coming to them as employers. We know it's important that we use the 6 C's in building relationships with our teachers, our families, and community. And the next one, students are inquirers and build knowledge. So we want to make sure that it's not regurgitation that we're asking of our students, but we really want our students to be critical thinkers and have them to really speak from a more in-depth lens. In order for students to do that, we must make the learning meaningful. So we must make it real life experiences. We must make sure that students have the opportunity to use their voice. This will give them that desire to connect to others. And then when I think about Jack Bird, who's here with us tonight, he always says for that bullet, deep learning is learning that sticks. It's the sticky learning because it's really relevant to what we do every day. And we also know that technology, we do not want it to be a consumer, but we want it to be the connector and amplifier that really enhances the learning that students and teachers do every day in their learning environment. So you've seen this slide before, some of you before. We kind of redid this slide because there was a lot of information that was on it. So really focusing on the fusion of pedagogical and innovative practices. So making sure that our students have the opportunity to engage in problem-based learning. I'm going to share with you a resource. I'll speak about a resource later that we're going to adopt that really will give teachers and students the opportunity to engage even more in depth with problem-based learning. Really, again, pushing the thinking of our students around the strategies and using graphic organizers in that format to do it. And mainly our assessments, that formative and summative assessments. So we want to make sure that we're checking in with our students along the way with those formative assessments, and then really looking at those unit plans and any of the work that students are doing to make sure the learning through completion. Design and thinking, again, making sure from that design phase with students from the very beginning thinking, I have an idea, from that interpretation of what that idea may look like, and then using their creativity to create that product at the end. Again, that strategies and tools, virtual simulations. The assessment is kind of where here we want to make sure, especially in everyday deep learning, students have the opportunity to do self-assessments where the language that we're wanting them to use around the 6 C's, they can use the language back and engaging in conversations with their teachers. I see myself. I understand how I'm being a critical thinker in this way. Right now, the assessment tools for the self-assessment, we think is still written too much in adult language, and we want to work with a group of students and making sure that that language is tailored towards students when they're using that language in the classroom. Again, we spoke about the co-designers and co-learners. The pedagogy of being the driver, digital the accelerator, and then the last one, we want to make sure that that virtual space and physical space is there. We know this year with the pandemic, we definitely had the challenge of the virtual space and then creating that sense of belonging and safety. So we really focus around the 6 C's, and you've heard me really speak about those from the beginning. Again, the 6 global competencies, I think about the input of the 4 elements of the input in the 6 C's as the output of what we want our students to successfully have. In the business world, they really focus on these are the 6 success skills. So as students graduate from Fort Wayne Community Schools, when we think about the 6 global competencies, we really want our students to be effective communicators. We want them to be able to critically think at high levels. We want them to know how to collaborate well with each other. Jack's probably going to say, Ramona, you're saying my name again, but Jack always uses the phrase, we want to make sure that everyone knows how to play well in the sandbox with each other. That creativity, that we want them to be the thinkers, we want them to help design work alongside each other. And we know, again, thinking about to the pipeline work that we're doing, our key communicators from the business world have said, really, when we think about character, really, how do we make sure that when we think about the 6 C's, that we have those soft skills or students knowing how to report to work early, how, again, to work well with others. And then we know that this will lead to the global capacity of how do we look at citizenship, not only for us here within the states, but globally within the world. So here I want to take the time to explain where we are and where we're going with everyday deep learning. With the 3 phases, you can see that each one of these areas overlap with each other because basically we're looking at clarity, depth, and sustainability. As a district, we first wanted to make sure that with all of our teachers, principals, stakeholders throughout the district, that we would build a common understanding of deep learning. What do we mean by the 6 C's? What do we mean by the 4 elements? How do you drive the 4 elements in the 6 C's when you're planning within the classroom? And then moving forward toward depth, how do we make sure that we have more precision in what we're designing? That really this year is the focus of Curriculum Collaborators 2.0. Really excited about the work, and I'm excited to have a teacher here tonight that's going to be able to share with us how that work is moving forward with us as a district. And then the sustainability, we want to make sure that when we think of everyday deep learning, this is something that we want to sustain because we truly do believe that it will make an impact with students and it'll make an impact for us as a district and our success. So let's talk about what has been our focus so far. Year 1, I just spoke about the clarity around establishing those conditions for deep learning, really giving students and teachers the opportunity to practice in that collaborative inquiry. Lindsay Amstutz is here, and we're going to talk about the design and assessment of the deep learning. So there's a deep learning planning and visit tool that we really want to make sure that we engage in this afternoon, to see Lindsay engage in that conversation with district leaders and then with teachers in our building. Year 2, and all this work started with Dr. Fullen and his team, New Pedagogies for Deep Learning, and so we really had to embrace a change. We were focusing on deep learning, and so in all honesty, with the curriculum, with our principals, with our teachers, there were some struggles that were there. So basically they're saying, Ramona, you keep speaking of, and you're talking about deep learning, how do we implement that into our curriculum? How do we ensure that we're doing that every day? So we had to make that shift from deep learning to everyday deep learning so that principals and teachers would not feel that the only time that they were doing deep learning is if they were involved in a major project. So you're going to hear Matt Herron speak about how do we move from micro, those small chunks of really when you walk into a classroom, do you see students collaborating with each other? Do you see students asking higher level questioning? And so when we made that shift to say, it's not about walking into a classroom and there's always this big project, but the micro of looking at those 6 C's can move into the project that you're going to have as an outcome of that product. So that really was the leading into our everyday deep learning. We want principals to collaborate with each other, so there's a specific principal learning team protocol that we want to model more with principals, and we want to give them the opportunity to share their voice with each other. So the principal from Northcrest Elementary visiting with the principal from South Wayne Elementary, even with the middle school or high school, to say, talk to me more about how deep learning is working in your building. Let's walk each other's building. Let's visit each other's building with each other. And then, of course, I have up there in caps, the pandemic happened. And the reason I wanted to stress that is because I felt like with Dr. Fuller and his team, Dr. Matt Gardner was the consultant that we were using. And then the pandemic happened, and it was like, how do we do this virtually? And really the focus really moved to the well-being of our teachers and the well-being of our students. So it was really, how will this look different? So it made us have to go back honestly and to be able to say to you tonight, not all the answers, but how do we truly go back and say, what does deep learning look like through that virtual space? And so having the opportunity to engage with the new pedagogists for deep learning and actually having the opportunity to engage with facilitators, teachers, principals from around the world and have them to demonstrate and share, this still works. Because again, I think we were thinking big projects that you had to have completed, and how do we do that in that virtual space? This was going back to the 6 C's and say, wait a minute, as you're visiting your teachers' classrooms virtually, what are the students doing? What do you see them doing? How are they engaged? What's the questioning level that they're on? Are they working in small groups with each other? Are they collaborating with each other? So I think, again, going back to Matt, which you're going to hear him so elegant say for himself, it was moving from micro to macro that really made the difference with everyday deep learning. So this is the assessment that we created for teachers to take pre-K through 12 throughout the district. Twice a year. This assessment data is fall of 2020. I do not have a slide that's showing you the spring data because we still have the window open for the spring data that teachers can still complete this assessment. We can see, based upon the average teacher that engaged in this assessment, there's 1,028 responses. The 2.28, really, when you look at 1, 2, 3, and 4, 1 meaning don't feel confident, 2 emerging confidence, 3 very confident, and 4 able to develop others. Clarity, the average teacher felt that they had emerging confidence around the 4 elements and the 6 C's of deep learning. And some of them even felt like they were emerging confidence. You can see that where depth is that everyone is definitely, it's not where they don't feel confident. I should say not everyone, but the average teacher that took this assessment for us. And then 2, we can see that lastly was sustainability, 2.6. And so we know that that's the level that we really have work to do. But there's something I want to clarify with this slide because it can be misleading. The slide previously where I showed the 3 arrows moving with each other, there are some teachers in our district that they're still at the clarity phase. So when we think about our new teachers and the onboarding, we know we'll have another group of new teachers this year. There are still some teachers that we need to work with that still needs clarity around what are the expectations, how can you help me more? Again, that's the support from the PL department, the curriculum department, and the technology department, and making sure collaboratively that we're supporting those teachers. So that's why those arrows, again, are simultaneously together, because, again, you could have teachers in each one of those spaces.
When you measure sustainability, what does that mean?
So sustainability, when we want to measure that, and so each one of these have a different set of questions that we're asking. So sustainability is really when we walk into a classroom, I want to be able to say to a community leader or someone else, Fort Wayne Community Schools is a deep learning district. So sustainability, Steve, I want you or leaders to be able to walk into a classroom, and if it's sustainable, everyone's asking higher level questioning of students. Everyone has collaboration with students that's taking place. So we walk in, sustainability means that we've kind of moved away from operating in silos, the traditional classroom. We have student sustainability that they're actually looking at the standards from a lens, especially those critical and priority standards. So we're trying to make sure sustainability, the learning that we want to take place is really sticking with our students. And so really this assessment is not going to be the only point that tells us whether we're sustaining what we're doing. There's numerous assessments that we have to look at, and not just quantitative data, but we also have to look at qualitative data to make sure that we're sustaining everyday deep learning.
I'm still struggling with this. So is it, when you say sustainability, it's the ability of the teacher to stay in this groove for an extended period of day? It's not just an hour, it's not just a day that they feel confident enough in this approach to teaching? Is that what sustainability is?
So when I think about sustainability, I think of a teacher not thinking about it as something new or not one more thing that they have to do.
Okay.
They really see it as the culture that we live by every single day.
Okay.
So
I guess that was my first impression, is that because teachers see something new every year, right?
Yes.
And so I'm trying to figure out if they're thinking, well, this will be gone in a year. I don't really have to pay attention.
And Steve, that's why it was so important for Curriculum Collaborators 2.0, because teachers had to see the connection.
Okay.
Teachers had to see their voice, and they had to see the connection of what they're teaching every day. They had to see the connection between the critical standards and the priority standards to see that this was not going away. And they had to see that it was going to be impactful with their students.
So you've got to sell the value of what this approach is.
Yes. So we had to move past the philosophy.
Right.
And make sure that we know that the research base is here. We know that Fuller and his team has done extensive research to say that this works, that it's sticky learning and that it will make a difference. For our teachers, again, we had to make sure that not only it was from the central office, so that's a switch for us this year. So again, that's why I have a teacher here this afternoon, because we wanted to make sure from the teacher's voice that we really had to have buy-in from the very beginning. And that teachers understood this is really about changing the impact and the trajectory of students in our district.
Because we are all bombarded every day with bigger, brighter, faster, cleaner, right? So
Yes.
they're constantly being marketed by all of these environmental external forces, and this in their mind could be just another example of that. A marketing ploy, not really anything to it.
And I think if we didn't take the opportunity to really work on that clarity, depth, and sustainability phase, you're absolutely correct. They would see this as just one more new shiny object that we're asking them to do.
Yeah.
Could you go back a slide?
Go back a slide.
Yeah. So back to Steve's point, the clarity is just like, and I'm just trying to make sure I understand it too. The clarity is like, hey, it's getting introduced to me and I understand it. The depth is, now I see an impact. And the sustainability is, wow, this is really valuable. We're all in. Is that a fair?
Thank you, very
phrase?
fair. I see it, I apply it, and I'm implementing it across the district.
Okay. And then so if we were starting to hit 4 on this grading of 1 to 4,
Yes.
able to develop others, does that mean developing other teachers, developing other students, developing?
So able to develop others. So again, we think about peers. So basically, say for instance, new teachers or others are coming in. I understand this well enough, and this is a part of the culture that I can help, I can support the work, and so I can be a support for others in my building for developing what they need to have in order to implement everyday deep learning in their classroom.
So you're looking for champions.
I'm looking for champions. And I truly believe we have one champion here tonight, and we have many champions that's working with our Curriculum Collaborators 2.0.
But on average, we're getting a little stronger about it, but not quite there.
We're not quite there. Remember, the pandemic did happen.
Yeah, fair enough.
It happened, but we're definitely getting stronger.
What's a realistic number on clarity? We have new teachers every year. And so what's a realistic goal that we have of clarity and not being 4, obviously? I mean,
Right. So I
one of
definitely,
4, but
yeah, Jennifer, I think realistic, especially with clarity, you can see that, of course, if we're running up, we're almost at that 3, but you definitely, I feel like for us to have sustainability, we must have everyone in the district. For clarity, you have to be at 3. And then as Steve said, the champions, then we know that we're going to have a group of experts within the district that we want them at level 4s.
If we say we get 100 new teachers a year, say 50 year right out of college and 50 year seasoned teachers, I mean, to Jennifer's point, wouldn't that mean that the college kids have to be aware of this in college? Is this being taught, or is this being talked about in the university?
So we're doing this more with partnering with at the university level and talking about, again, the theory that's explained there and having this to be more part of their curriculum. So there's something that we're trying to advocate for. But we do definitely make sure for our teachers that's coming in new to us, based upon the PL department and other departments supporting new teachers, this is an initiative that we make sure that we approach all of them with from day one. So this summer, we will have 2 full PL days with our teachers new to the district. With our teachers new to the district, it's not standalone, so it's not just the PL department and then the technology department and the curriculum department. All of us will work collaboratively with each other to make sure that the teachers coming on board, that they understand the initiatives that they're going to be working with throughout the district. And then the new teachers, we're not just meeting with them during the summer for those 2 days, we're meeting with them throughout the school year. So that's a month, every month we're bringing those new teachers back together. And then we're also having support to go to the building and support those teachers that's coming on new. And not just the first year, we're doing that for year 1 and year 2.
So are you seeing any new educators that are coming into us that have any background on everyday deep learning? I mean, are there higher education institutes that are implementing this programs that they're starting to understand that?
So what's happened us really with the state of Indiana is that, yes, if you're here within the state, because again, the state of Indiana and the Department of Ed, they're really starting to push out to deep learning. Last year, it didn't happen again because of the pandemic, but the superintendent, or our prior superintendent of the state at that time, was actually bringing all principals from across the state, and they were bringing representatives from their school, and she wanted every one of them to focus on everyday deep learning. And then also at our educational centers throughout the state, they've also made sure that now they're having deep learning to be there. For the universities, Jennifer, I would say it may not be the same exact language that we're using for everyday deep learning. So it's not as in-depth with our new teachers coming to us, but it's not a totally new concept. So when we think about pedagogies and proven practices that we do know that the university level they're still focusing, I think what's new to them when they come to our district is that we've adopted the research from one specific philosopher that we're studying that with, a researcher.
What do you see as the biggest kickback or pushback to your group and your team about, I mean, what, to get to the 4s, as they mentioned, what's people leery of, I guess?
I would say moving from the past, moving forward, the biggest kickback was really understanding how do we integrate everyday deep learning into our curriculum. So to me, and anyone else from the team too can speak, but that was the biggest pushback. The biggest pushback was, I see the curriculum's asking me to do this. However, you're saying that I should have the flexibility to actually integrate everyday deep learning in this way, and I don't see the two connecting with each other. So then we had to rethink or imagine how we were going to do that. And so now basically giving teachers the voice back, making sure that we have those champions that saying, here's how we can build lessons based upon our scope and sequence, looking at our critical and priority standards, and here's how we can bring those units to life within that. So I think the biggest pushback was I felt like teachers and sometimes administrators, they felt like building level, we're hearing one thing or wanting to do one thing. District level, you're saying something different and you're trying to push it in, and we just don't have the connection that we have. And so I think now the excitement, honestly, when we have our curriculum collaborators together and the work that they're designing and they're including to make sure that they have deep learning included within there, the push for me is not about the resistance, it's like move out of the way. It's like we really have this, we want to do this, we get this, we own it, and we know that it'll make a difference with our students.
I'm probably pretty surprised that you're telling them there's no leash anymore.
I don't know what the surprise, Steve, is. I will say that they are excited to know that that professionalism is there and that we respect that professionalism and that we are actually giving them the tools that they need to make this work.
There's a price for freedom.
There is a price. So again, I talked about really working with first and second year teachers, and just wanted to share real quickly with you some of the qualitative data. And this is exactly from teachers and what they've shared about really using deep learning every day in their classroom, how they really focus on the relationships with their students. They do feel like their students are growing in their confidence. They do like the collective efforts pre-K through 12 of our district. And then I really like the focus around stability for the demographics we serve, because we know that really with deep learning, we're speaking about every child, and it brings in the equity lens for us, and really looking at that being a reflection of the classroom culture. So everyday deep learning across the district, I want to share this video again. It's Matt Herron, and then it's video from different schools across the district.
My name is Matthew Herron. I'm the principal at Lane Middle School. I've been unit head here for 4 years now, but with the district for about 8 years. When Matt Gardner was here walking the building with myself and a number of other district leaders, right before, it was probably the winter before the shutdown. And the most poignant part was asking me, based on what we observed in the classroom, where could that teacher have taken the learning deeper? This year of 2020-2021, back in the fall, we began some professional learning about what I termed micro deep learning, which is what the district calls the everyday deep learning. And that has really been the jump starting point for how we've been talking in our professional learning as a building about how you can integrate everyday deep learning into each of your lessons. And it doesn't have to be anything that is extravagant or takes a lot of planning. It could be something as simple as just seizing those teachable moments that the kids give us. I would say how it's influenced and impacted the students and staff at Lane is really the engagement piece. Deep learning is the perfect canvas for finding those teachable moments to get them excited about learning. And once you've got that excitement about learning for your students, then they're ready to come along with you every single time. The fact that Fort Wayne Community Schools has taken on and recognized the importance of what deep learning brings to education, that's the huge piece in itself. And being the largest school district in the state of Indiana, I think it says something about our willingness to do what's very best for kids, best for all of our kids in our building, and that is to be able to focus on the futuristic side of what kids can take away from learning in middle school. We can start building kids to be citizens in this United States of America, citizens in the community where they can work together and collaborate. You know, this is about building young people into becoming better people than they would even guess they could be, and instilling that confidence in what they will be able to do, not just today, not just in middle school, and can really just make an impact in the world. And that's what deep learning is here at Lane, and that's what we're going to continue to invest our kids in and our staff in going forward.
All right, so you can see again, Matt emphasized starting out with the micro and moving to the macro and how that became very clear. We're going to move to the depth stage, and so this is really moving us into our Curriculum Collaborators 2.0 and the changes that we're making. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide because Scott McMullen has done a very nice job on explaining this entire process. So this is the process that we're using this summer with our Curriculum Collaborators 2.0 for ELA, English Language Arts, and Math. Elementary grades, pre-K through 5 with our applied skills are also here. And then our math at the secondary level. He's going to explain in depth the curriculum work plan, assessment exemplars, instruction exemplar units. I can come back to this slide after the video if you need me to.
Hi, I'm Scott McMullen. I teach math at Northside High School, and I'm here to talk with you about the Algebra 2 curriculum for the 2021-22 school year. There are 3 questions that the Algebra 2 design team needed to answer in curriculum writing this summer. First, what do we want students to learn? Second, how do we know that they've learned? And finally, how will teachers facilitate the students' learning? First things first, what do we want students to learn? There are 4 major understandings or concepts that a typical student who has completed Algebra 2 should be able to demonstrate. Students should be able to solve equations, inequalities, and systems with all the families of functions that they'll be presented. Students should be able to determine whether a function has an inverse, and if so, determine what that inverse function is. Students should be able to graph functions and transform those functions. And students should be able to use a variety of functions to model real-world phenomena. The scope and sequence was designed with these concepts in mind. Wherever possible, families of functions were placed sequentially with their inverses. For example, the topic on quadratic functions is immediately followed by the topic on square root functions. This is also the case with polynomials and radicals, as well as with exponential and logarithmic functions. There are a number of standards that appear multiple times in the scope and sequence. most notably F.4 and DSP.3. Why is this? Each topic that involves graphing and transforming within a function family includes standard F.4. Once students become familiar with transforming a graph, this initially happens during the exploration of absolute value functions, they will see similarities in how transformations occur with other function families. This theme of transformation links the learning throughout the year, making students' experience of learning Algebra 2 more coherent. This idea is also seen as students learn to model data sets, as described in standard DSP.3. As students learn about each function family, they will apply their learning to model data sets. As more function families are introduced, students will be able to determine which type of function could be used as the model. One more consideration for the Algebra 2 team was when systems of equations would be presented. Our recommendation was that systems of linear equations would be presented after linear functions, so as to meld together the newest learning with necessary learning from Algebra 1 that may merit further investment of instructional time. Later, as students are exploring quadratic functions, a system with a linear and a quadratic can be considered. The Algebra 2 team has developed 3 exemplar assessments for your consideration. One is a fairly intuitive summative assessment, a test that can be administered using the Illuminate DNA platform. In addition to that, though, we've designed an exemplar assessment project as well as a performance-based task. Our belief is that teachers are at their best when they have options available, and the inclusion of projects and performance-based tasks as summative assessments will prompt teachers to get creative. We also know that project and performance-based assessments can offer teachers greater insight into their students' understanding than traditional testing. The third and most critical question is, how will we help kids learn? The Algebra 2 team has developed an exemplar unit complete with a unit plan and lesson plans, as well as formative and summative assessment materials. They include I-CAN statements and vocabulary, and critically, articulate the connection with deep learning, the 6 C's and 4 E's. Fundamentally, because each member of the Algebra 2 team is in the classroom, we know the struggles associated with developing rich lessons and learning experiences for kids day in and day out. The recommendations and designs are here to help make that process easier and more efficient. In addition, though, we know what it's like to feel hemmed in by a prescribed curriculum that at times felt too restrictive. It is with this experience in mind that we sought to provide greater flexibility so teachers can really spread their wings. I think the scope and sequence and exemplar materials strike the right balance between those two important considerations. It's also important that you take a look at those materials and provide feedback to us so that in the event that any changes need to be made, we can do that in a timely fashion. We appreciate your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, and Scott is here with us. I do want to share with you that with the Curriculum Collaborators process, we wanted to make sure that every teacher, pre-K through 5, and with applied skills, there were lead teachers along with the Curriculum Collaborators. There's a video that's on our Schoology page that shares with teachers exactly this process. If you're kindergarten, your first grade, your second grade, middle school, and high school for ELA. The feedback that Scott spoke to in this video, we had an open window this past Wednesday through Friday. We emailed all teachers that need to be involved in this process to say we really want your feedback. We want you to see whether or not there's any changes that you would ask us to make with this scope and sequence. Along with the window being open, we also did a robocall to teachers' homes Wednesday through Friday to say, please check your Schoology page. There's updated information. And along the way, every time the Curriculum Collaborators do something different, we will email, robocall, ask for feedback from teachers. We do not want teachers to start at the beginning of this school year and receiving materials or resources the week that school is starting. We want to make sure for this process that teachers have been brought along the way so that they really know that their voice is appreciated.
Did you have a lot of feedback?
The window, we kind of extended that window, so I think right now, curriculum coordinators and then with professional learning, it has not been an overwhelming amount of feedback. So I would say for right now, we're probably looking at maybe approximately maybe 5% of our teachers that have actually engaged in that feedback so far. So again, just that email reminding teachers that that window is open for them. And so for our main is that we want to make sure that we're reiterating that to teachers as much as possible, because we definitely want them to feel like this is not something that was done to them, but their voice is clearly in this process.
And was that just math or all different levels?
Was it just math or?
Or all different ELA, all?
All different, yes.
Can you tell if the teachers have accessed the material like you would with students, like they've been on whatever you called that, school something?
Yes, so for Schoology, that's a report that easily that Jack could access for us and could tell us exactly how many times Schoology pages have been accessed, and if teachers have actually gone to look at the scope and sequence.
So just wondering if they had looked at it but just had no comments or
Right.
type of sense.
So, and I think sometimes with teachers, it may be that I appreciate the process, so they're not really engaging in feedback. I can say the feedback that has been provided is very positive feedback of saying, I like the way that you thought through this, I like the way that this have been put together. And then if there's I wonders, that's going back to the team, and then we're going to make sure that we look at all of that data and create that report to take back to curriculum collaborators.
So can teachers see that at any time? What you put out there, just not the open.
Yes, they can see it at any time through their Schoology account, yes.
Well, I'm just thinking about the teachers as a whole and just finishing the school year and then having that come out, and I'm appreciative that you're getting that out to them early, but I'm guessing that they might have closed the book for a few days and gave themselves a reprieve. So I was just hoping that they could then follow up and see that at any time.
Yes, so they can definitely, it's uploaded to their Schoology account, so they can click on that. So if you're teaching at the elementary level, you're not seeing all of them across the board. You're clicking for exactly what's there for you, that you would need for your grade level.
I'm guessing the point of hope and desire is you get feedback so you can make changes before school.
Yes, so basically, know if there were changes that would come past that point, so then we're definitely going to be checking in, but it is the scope and sequence that we will start the school year with. So we definitely have to make sure that's why we have the window. We open it up this past Wednesday through Friday, because we want to make sure as we make those changes that we do have a document, and we do have a scope and sequence and work plan, everything that goes together for our teachers to start with.
How late can you go to a cutoff time, out of curiosity for that?
So our teams are coming together this week. The math team is coming together Thursday. We'll look at the feedback that we have this coming Thursday, make any changes or make any adjustments if we need to. And then we have our ELA teams that's following right behind them. And then what we'll do is we'll upload that document again, and we'll actually take draft away from it to share with teachers. This is their scope and sequence for the 21-22 school year. Okay. These are resources. Of course, we're not going to click on these links for you tonight. Schoology, we've talked about, that's where the teachers are accessing their resources. Defined Learning will be a new resource this year for building level principals and teachers. This is really a platform that teachers will have and principals will have to be able to support teachers with. Then when we think about project-based learning, this is actually linked to standards, so teachers will actually be able to go in, click on, say if I want to look at third grade, I can click on third grade. If it's something around climate, I can click on climate. It will take me to the projects that have already been designed. Teachers can use those projects as they already have been designed, or they can add to those projects. And then there's also on this website, it will give teachers the opportunity to upload projects where we can see those pre-K through 12 across the district. This is a resource that we're just starting to do PL around this summer. The new Pedagogists for Deep Learning, again, is the NPDL hub. The difference between those two, the Defined Learning link actually gives you projects and a process to go through for students. The new Pedagogists for Deep Learning hub already have examples there, but it's actually where you're just watching the video and looking at the vignettes that tells you here are some great examples that have been uploaded to the hub. We've already talked about the first year, second year teacher exit interviews, the QIT Learn Design. This is actually through Padlet, our last QIT in May, that principals and teachers had the opportunity with their QIT teams that actually designed a deep learning lesson. We're going to bring this back at our QIT that's meeting this summer, July 28th and 29th, and just to have those designs available again for teachers and principals to see if there's anything that they would do differently to enrich those designs that they started. And so tonight, we really want to end with the FWCS Learning Visit and Planning Tool. Lindsay Amstutz is here with us. This is a visit that occurred at her school. And again, we really want to emphasize that this is not a checklist. It's not a I got you. It's not an evaluation tool. This is a collaborative conversation tool. This is a tool that really works two ways. It's from district to building, from building to district, and we're all learning together doing this collaborative inquiry to see what might need to happen differently or what needs to stay the same, and to share best practices across the district. So again, Lindsay Martin.
I really like the suggestions too that you guys get, because of course the teachers will ask like, hey, what suggestions would you have for me to go even deeper and to get into that advanced category? And so the suggestion you gave about involving community resources and involving the zoo with their animal research activity would be a great next step for that. So
when I look at the third bullet point, you just addressed what's one next step to lead that second grade group forward. So perhaps when you meet with the teachers or your coach meets with the teachers, you could pose that question of what would that look like, feel like, and sound like to have those next steps so that teachers know exactly what they should be aiming for with the next step towards. So with the third grade classrooms, were they where you anticipated them being on the continuum?
yes, probably the first classroom we went to, I would put more on the accelerating, and the second one, and emerging.
What can we do to help support?
I mean, this has been helpful for me just to have another lens, another set of eyes, seeing the same thing I'm seeing, and then, getting to talk about it right away. I think sometimes when we're in classrooms, we're taking notes, observing, but then we don't really have someone to reflect with, did you see the same thing I did, kind of a thing. So, and I think just encouraging the teachers to incorporate, just look for opportunities to incorporate deep learning in the 6 Cs every day. It's not a standalone, it's not something different.
We're not doing deep learning. It's just a way of life. It's the way of teaching. It's the way of learning.
It's a lifestyle.
It is. It is.
Thank you guys so much.
We'll be glad to come back.
Yes,
We'll be glad to come back and maybe do a follow-up visit in the fall then to see how things have changed and utilizing the continuing, how the teachers see that they need to continue as a way to help push them towards that accelerating.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
So again, I want to thank you. That was just a small segment of an 8-minute video that Lindsay allowed us to engage in with her team. It was a team that was shown at the Global Network, so with countries all around the world. And so this is a tool that we created within FWCS, but now we have other school districts and countries around the globe that they're using this same assessment tool that we created. And it's a learning visit. And so basically what they were sharing is there's a before, during, and after. Before, the principal is actually engaged in a conversation and they let us know exactly what they want us to focus on when we're in their building. During the conversation, they're in classrooms, they're stepping outside the classroom and they're having a conversation. And then the follow-up is what you really what you really just saw Lindsay engaging in, saying, this is what I saw and this is where I would place. On this, it's basically, are you at that emerging, accelerating, or advanced stage? And then it's like, well, how can we support you? What's the next steps? What is it that you need to do differently to move forward? So again, I know it was maybe long. I could still go on and on about everyday deep learning, but again, I want to thank you for your attention tonight with everyday deep learning, and to see if you have any other additional questions for Scott, Lindsay, myself, or the team.
Did the one person say, I think she made the comment, it's a lifestyle? Is that
Yes,
what she said?
that was Haley Sauer, elementary director, yes.
And maybe that's what the sustainability piece that Steve was asking about. When it becomes your lifestyle, then we know or your lifestyle in the classroom, then we know it's sustainability.
I totally agree. Lifestyle, the culture, then it's sustainable. Thank you, Ann.
Ramona, can you share, I know Lindsay is the building principal, but who were the others in the video?
So basically, we have Kamaria Lakes, which is an elementary PL coordinator, Allison Sleesman, PL coordinator, and then a lot of times with our visits, Allison and Cammie both were there because they're both elementary coordinators, and then one of them specifically support that building. So they're in that building with Lindsay quite a bit. And so then outside of that, the coach was not a part of this one, but usually if we're in the building too, the instructional coach is another person that we would like to be with us when we're doing those learning visits.
And then, Lindsay, do you then follow up with the teachers for the classrooms that you visited to give them the feedback as well, or how does that all work?
For this kind of a process in particular, it was more learning for myself as the instructional leader of the building to get feedback from, you know,
We can hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Cameron. So with that process, it was more about my learning as an instructional leader of the building and getting feedback from our professional learning department about what I see as an evaluator. So that feedback to those teachers that I visited would have been shared with them informally, but not in a formal evaluation. This was a learning tool for myself and for, like Ramona said, an instructional coach, assistant principal.
Got it. Okay.
So as a parent of the district, this is an exciting approach to learning and something different than some of my older children who've already graduated have experienced. How are we going to get the message to the parents and let them know that, because it is a different system, and if it's a different lifestyle that we're teaching, how are we going to get them that message out there of something new and exciting? Because for me, I think that this is exciting, and it's a different approach, and it might be an asset for our district to promote this is a different way of learning, that we're integrating a lot of different things into math, for example.
Yes.
And so I just wondered if we even, I understand it's new and we're getting our teachers all on board too, but I would like to hear more as a parent on how that affects my child and what they're learning in the classroom.
And so moving forward, we're definitely trying to make sure with our parents, especially at the building level. And then again, this is really, again, support from Jack's department, and especially from Jen with communications department. So again, looking at our new intranet system and how we're going to be communicating internally with our stakeholders and how we're going to be communicating externally with our stakeholders. So some schools, again, are a step ahead. So again, an example, I think about Memorial Park. So at Memorial Park, they clearly have an entire page that's connected with their parents, and it's the Everyday Deep Learning page. So they consistently posted resources for their parents. They let their parents know exactly which projects, which resources that they were using, so parents could automatically go to that page for the academic side, and then there was social well-being resources that were there for parents also. So our push, Jennifer, going back to that, would be that every school, that when a parent would connect with schools through their homepage, that they would see that we're an Everyday Deep Learning district. And I believe that's the way that we're moving, and I definitely know with the new intranet system that we're going to be working with, and Jen would definitely be the one that could speak about that more. I just think that it's going to definitely be that internal and external communication key point that's going to be there for us.
Because I think that's almost as important as for me to understand what, I mean, I know now. I've read the book, I understand it. But as another parent who's just coming into the district and having no idea what 6 C's mean or any of that connection,
yes.
I think that's an important goal for us to get that messaging out to those parents so they understand. So I've seen project-based learning in my child, and it's exciting. But I also understand it a little bit more. So I hope that we have that messaging coming out.
And we're going to do a much better job at messaging. So especially even when we think about our technology page, our curriculum. The big change for us moving forward this year is that I cannot thank the team enough that's here. And it's really that collaboration that's taking place with technology, with curriculum, with PL. And that's definitely going to ensure that we're reaching all the stakeholders that we need to.
Great. It's exciting.
Thank you.
So this being new, And I presume the hope and the goal is better outcomes, student achievement. How will we monitor and measure that piece of the puzzle?
So basically, not totally new, but been trying to be more precise and intentional about the work that we're asking to be done around deep learning. So we started this journey. We're definitely always connecting anything that we do. So when the video that Scott talked about, that work really being connected closely to the critical and priority standards. So we're going to be using formative assessments, and so really more data-driven this year based upon the assessment tools that teachers are going to be able to use. So we definitely will be able to have those check-ins much quicker, real-time data that we'll be able to get from teachers to see that what we're doing every day is making a difference. And then the new platform for defined learning that we're going to share with teachers, I'm excited about that tool because it actually aligns assessment data to the 6 Cs. So not only just looking at those critical standards, but it's actually a measure of, are you really mastering, are students really mastering? When you think about character, how are you assessing that? And then what data do you have to formulate with that? So that's what the defined learning tool that we're going to support teachers with. But definitely with Curriculum Collaborators 2.0, and again, Everyday Deep Learning, the design template that we're supporting teachers with, it has that design with the designing template that they're going to be using. And then again, with the new assessment system that we're going to be using, those checkpoints again will be along the way to make sure that this is having an impact.
I did have a question, and I just remembered your last name is Mr. McMullen? Yes, okay. I liked that you are giving teachers options at the end of lessons, and so you mentioned projects or, just things to further that. And I understand, and I'm glad that we're giving teachers the ability to be creative and to push students. And I am a firm believer in that students will give you as much as they want to give you, but that might not be all that they're capable of. And I'm thinking of my child in particular, no one else's child. So he is very capable if you push him. So are teachers going to be able to see those students that are maybe getting it and offer them additional, do this project? I remember in college, you could write a longer paper and then it was considered an honors thing, kind of, to extend yourself. Will students be able to get sort of that push if teachers see it?
Of course, yes. All the assessments that are designed by the team, and they're supposed to be, they're exemplars, so we know that teams of teachers at the schools will be using them as, kind of the framework for designing their own. But they're all designed with spread in mind, so that a student who struggles with the materials, perhaps there's always going to be something on our assessments where they can engage and demonstrate what they do understand. Similarly, we have high, deep, depth of knowledge kinds of questions that offer students the opportunity to demonstrate a deeper understanding. But again, like when you're looking at a traditional assessment, it's pretty locked in. Performance-based tasks, projects, they're quite a bit more wide open, particularly projects where students can choose the way that they demonstrate their understanding. Everything is designed with, the focus on the standards, so whatever the students do as their project or their product is going to reflect their understanding. But it's going to be, I think it's helpful for a student who may be undermotivated to choose a way that they like to do it. It's just designed with that kind of flexibility in mind. Most of the time, teachers know what their students are capable of and what they aren't, but the assessments that we have in mind really help to open that up. Teachers don't need to be operating in a vacuum. They need to see some of the possibilities, things they may not have considered, and I think that the assessments do that, set that example.
Thank you.
Did you have any examples this year of students being impacted by the deep learning? And any light bulbs going off or groups of students or anything like that?
Well, this past year I talked about using, can you indulge me in an example for a moment? Sure. So, we can talk about students modeling data in a way that's completely contrived. Like, how many ice cream sandwiches would you eat if you had 5 friends over and there were 24 ice cream sandwiches available? And it's not 4.8 sandwiches, everyone's going to have 1 or 2, and then if you have more than that, you're going to get sick. So it's not realistic to use that as an example, right? But if I asked a student, you believe the global warming is happening, is it's anthropogenic, is the world getting warmer? Yes, students believe that. Do you know that it's going to be warmer next year than it is this year? And the students are like, well, yeah, we know it's going to be warmer. I'm like, well, how do you know that? You don't know that. It's the future. That's how the future works. You don't know that for sure. But how can you convey your understanding that it is the case, that you do believe that? What motivates that belief? Just looking at it on the news is not enough. Just hearing people say, this is the truth, you have to know, where the science has been confirmed. No, students want to know for themselves. So if we look at actual data, scatter plot, use a model, and the students know how to understand that model, and they can make a prediction about that for the future. They're invested in why the math makes sense, and they're applying it in a way that is relevant for their lives. And I guess global warming is a convenient example. Everyone's kind of on the same page about that. But there are things about which people are not on the same page. And if one of our 6 C's is to communicate, then we want to make sure that students are equipped with things that make communication more effective. And so, I think we think about mathematics being one of those things. But I think that's, the students were into the class, they enjoyed the lesson. They were engaged. And I think they took more away about understanding how modeling works because they knew how to apply it.
So as a math teacher, with a math teacher to my right and a math teacher to my left.
This is not at all intimidating, I can assure you.
One of the 6 C's is critical thinking. And how do you juxtapose the critical thinking aspect versus what the state seems to be pushing for is workforce development? In my mind, workforce development is I'm training or learning for a specific task. What I feel like we're trying to do as a district is, learn that task, but also think about that task, ask about, wonder about all these other aspects of that specific task. How do you pair the two?
I'm not sure I understand why those two things need to be at odds.
I guess I feel like if I'm a machinist, I want to learn how to run that machine to the best of my ability. But there's other aspects that may come in and the machine's broken. Well, I don't know how to fix that machine, but I just know how to run it.
Sure.
Right? I guess that's where I see the difference, isn't it? I can learn how to run it, but I might not learn how to think, well, I put too big a piece in this machine to run it. Or, I guess that's what I see.
My father-in-law's a machinist, and he tells me a story about how there's a piece of titanium, and they're trying to determine why it's failing to be in tolerance, right? It's like, well, when we machined the part, it was in tolerance, and now that we're trying to inspection, it's not in tolerance. What's going on? And we got all these different people trying to figure out what's going on. And then they were like, well, were you wearing gloves when you handled the part? Because this thing was made of titanium, and that will cause it to flex, and as a consequence, it will be out of tolerance if you are handling it with your warm hands. I don't know a person who's not thinking critically occurs to ask that question. You got a bunch of dumbfounded people with a lot of money involved, by the way. Things made out of titanium are not inexpensive. Without somebody asking that critical question, you don't really make progress. So you want the machinist to be able to think about what's going on and not just what they've been told to do. I think that's hopefully that's a resonant example.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I believe we are ready for board member comments.
No comments this evening.
Okay.
Thank you.
Raleigh?
I always have a comment, so. I just am hoping that everybody out there and anybody watching the meeting tonight that is involved with our district stays engaged and continues to watch all summer long. I know it's summer, and everybody thinks it's summer. And you should be taking a relaxing time, and especially our teachers, but please do stay engaged, and before we know it, we'll be back in school. So I look forward to everybody having a good time this summer. That's it.
Maria?
I just wanted to say thank you to everybody that was involved with the graduations. I don't know if people that don't go to graduations understand that they are so very beautifully decorated with the school's colors, and we have flowers and they are beautiful, but someone has to take the flowers out and put the other flowers up, and so thank you to everyone that was involved in graduations, and I really hope that families enjoyed having the formal graduations at the Coliseum. I know that they preferred that method, and so I hope that it was everything that they wanted it to be. It's always such a proud moment. I remember my parents just being, over the moon that you graduate, And as a teenager, I don't think that you understand the amount of pride that wells in your parents in those moments. So it's always so exciting to see parents just so excited, and hopefully the students remember that. So I know when I was a teenager, I was like, I just want to go to everyone's graduation party. I'm over this. But in looking back, I can remember now that my parents were very proud, and it was a very big moment for our family. So just congratulations to all of our graduates as well.
Thank you, Maria. Julie?
Yep, I agree. Congratulations to the class of 2021 and all the teachers and staff and everyone involved in getting through this year, and despite all of the obstacles and challenges, making it a successful one. With a return to, prom for the senior class and then graduation. And enjoyed being part of it. Thank you.
As the parent, I think the only parent up here with seniors this year, thank you to the district for hosting the graduations, and thank you to all that attended. Maria helped support my daughter's graduation, so thank you to Maria. It was a proud moment, a fun moment, and something I think my daughters will remember for the rest of their life. So, and as a father, I appreciate it. So thank you to the district, and that's all.
Dr. Daniel?
So, hearing the PL and what we're doing in that space this evening, I think you can see we've made some great strides, but we're always improving, and I think that's important to understand as well. But also, I'm hearing teachers, their involvement level, I couldn't have asked for a greater thing to happen. And as we start to look at resources for our teachers, it's really also how do we provide tools that make them more efficient. They hopefully don't have to search the internet, and therefore we're hopefully taking things off their plates as they do these things. And I really think there are three things then. As our teachers become more engaged, our students become more engaged, and our parents become more engaged. And that engagement piece is just huge. And I heard the gentleman say that. It's when students are engaged, some magic things happen. And magic things, as Ramona said, they stick. And we're really focusing on what are those critical standards. Thank you, teachers, for going through that. That's tremendous amount of effort, and you can imagine all the levels we have, and they're having the vertical and horizontal alignment and agreement and so forth. I'm very anxious to see how this now plays in the instruction, in the classroom, and yes, ultimately in results, or it's the outcomes. And those outcomes, those depth of knowledge questions, the days of having rote memorization, they're done. They're gone. So our kids are expected to have a much higher level of knowledge to be able to apply in predictable and even unpredictable scenarios. And once our students start to practice and play in this, if you will, play in this environment, I think we're going to see tremendous growth from the standpoint of I learn. As you know, we're working away from NWA, looking at a different tool. But again, the reason we're looking at this data piece is so teachers can have it immediately, not something that's out there beginning of the year, mid-year, end of year. Those days are done too. Although we'll use those to sort of chart things. Our teachers need tools today. And so I'm really appreciative. As you know, we're experimenting with quite a few different software packages. Jack assures me that we will look at outcomes to drive what are those tools that will remain when September 2024 rolls around. Because we can't sustain all these. We have to find what are best tools and, quite frankly, what is moving student outcome. Keeping our eye on what makes it easier for our teachers. And I think that's huge. So again, I agree with all that you've said. It's been an unbelievable year. We have our teachers engaging right now, and I'm truly grateful of that. And I've told them, find a chance to recharge the battery, so you got to do that as well. So again, thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to give a shout out to Karen Francisco, who's a consistent supporter of public education and especially Portland Community Schools. And June 3rd, she pretty much summarized what's happened in this legislative session. She talked about the recalculating of the A to F grading system, which will happen this summer, which has been recalculated how many times, Julie?
We've lost count.
So we are comparing apples to oranges continuously, but, and she talked about the, we now have the education savings account and some of the fraudulent things that have happened with those in other states. And we knew the expansion of the voucher, 90% of the foundation amount for, families making plenty of money. And then she referenced a Zoom, I don't know if it was a meeting, but a Zoom presentation with two of the authors of the Wolf at the Schoolhouse Door, Jack Schneider and Jennifer Berkshire. And Jack Schneider is a professor at the University of Massachusetts, I believe. And he made the comment, and he argues that, parents really don't want choice, which these vouchers are supposedly giving our parents, but they want quality neighborhood schools. And, that's exactly what Fortin Community Schools is trying to do. You saw it here tonight with our presentation of deep learning. And if you read in Sunday's paper, there was a great example of, what students can receive in Fortin Community Schools, not just the education part, but our kind-hearted teachers. It talked about a young lady, LaKendra, is it Deach? I'm not sure how to say her last name. Deachy.
Now Deachy.
Thank you. Who's now going to law school, but had such a, traumatic upbringing, with lots of trauma, abuse, neglect, things like that. But when she went to Southside, if you read the article, she had teachers there who just took her under their wing. Renee Albright, Marianne, and Joseph Ticci just greatly impacted her life. So if you haven't read that, that was in yesterday's paper. A great article about what our teachers do, and very impressive and just beautifully written, tearjerker. So I strongly recommend you read that. Is there a motion on the floor to adjourn today's meeting?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Do we have any guests who want to speak?
I have one postscript, and it's